Mana Yiva Gunishta August Falcha Quick Chorál. Welcome everybody to this, the second recording of Chorál, our teacher talk forum. And so tell me about that coming off the road, and what would you have done differently in hindsight when you come off the road? I mean, I know I've seen people crash and hide in their room for months, literally, and their mother's passing them food under the door, like
I think there should be guidelines for people coming off tour. I really mean this. There should be some sort of a book or a guideline book for people coming off, especially after like many years of touring, because you're institutionalized, like you really are. It's like you've been institutionalized. Now we're tossing you out of the bubble, figure it out. And you're failing because you went in as a child, coming out as an adult.
And you have no real world experience, and you know what you're doing. But when it comes to like logistics of, you're still kind of green. I mean, I was anyway when it came to finances. I had to later in life then study finances, and because I was like, I got to get a grip on this, because there's a lot of stuff that I wasn't aware of, investments and things that I could have been doing with that money back then. Investing in different funds or shares or whatnot that would have set me up for life in later years. And that's the type of conversations that we could be having with Tiernagh about, like, taking that little bit of a savings that you have, putting it in a TFSA or putting it in an RSP or whatever kind of it is that, fund that you have that will then possibly be able to set you up financially later in life.
Tiernagh, do you find now you're on this break now, what you said till after Christmas? Do you find it's easier to manage this time around than it was the first time you came off tour?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, as Niall and Tara and Glenn said about coming off tour, it is like you're in a bubble and you're coming back and you're like, oh God, like that was a completely different world. You feel like you're just coming back to reality and stuff. I think the first couple of times I came home, I did kind of struggle a bit because you're so like in that frame of mind of being in the show and just constantly moving from place to place. And I remember, like, whenever you come back from tour, I remember last week I slept for 12 hours the first two nights I came home, and I was like, oh my God, like I feel like I haven't.
Your poor body needed it.
I feel like I haven't had a proper sleep without like having something on my mind. So it is obviously tough, but you learn to get used to it, and you learn new things each time you come home to be able to manage it better.
And do you find that siblings and friends can look at her with her notions after traveling the world, and who does she think she is? She's only the same as us. Does that happen?
Look at him, he's back from his gallivanting. Yeah.
So I remember I was
zipping up there. I mean, but I think it can be a real issue for people, can't it? Because they feel maybe they've left. The family encourage their dancing to give them a better life, and then they get this better life. But when they come back, is it an issue that now you've got notions and you're somebody else, because you do come back somebody else?
I think people change towards you. I don't think you as a person changes. I don't think any of us change, because we all came from humble beginnings. We all went into Riverdance, Lord of the Dance. I think we changed as in like we grew, we made, new friendships and all that, but I don't think any of us changed as people. But I think people around you do change, because, you're put on a little bit of a platform, there's a little bit of attention on you. And I think people change towards that a little bit. Unfortunately, sometimes that happens,
I know here that if I say I teach Riverdance, then it's like they're dating Mickey Mouse. You know what I mean? It's like suddenly you're a celebrity, and I'm only by association. I was never in a show. Although I am looking forward to, when you're 19, you get up and you do a light jig and the whole audience stands up and gives you a round of I'm kind of hoping that role is coming up in one of the shows, and I can actually fit into that and finally get on tour. But but I do find that even me here in the desert, where there's nobody Irish, that it does give you a bit of celebrity status, even to say that this is the kind of dance form you do, because it is different, and it is now exotic and respected around the world. Whereas in our day, it really wasn't. You didn't tell anybody. But
I think that the fact that it's known is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, come here. I'm going to give you a rapid fire here, straight across the four of you. Best show that you can remember, like best, whether it was the theater, the auditorium, best gig that you did, like vividly remember.
I'll go first. It was the opening night of Dancing on Dangerous Ground, Radio City Music Hall, 1999.
And because?
because it was a culmination of a whole big, massive amount of work that we've been working on for a long time, and to prepare a product that wasn't ready, and then to finally be able to put it together in a stage, but maybe a little bit too big for it. But I think we held it properly, and it was the first time that that show was ready to be on stage.
Amazing.
And
Now,
nobody
The theatre is so
cared.
extraordinary, isn't it? I go on tour
Oh,
that
I
theatre.
love Radio City.
An amazing tour if anybody's in New York.
I absolutely love that theater. I've many, many fond memories of Radio City Music Hall.
now, what's yours?
Back to New York as well. We did the opening of Celtic Tiger in Madison Square Gardens, and that was insane. So just to up you one there, Glenn. We did.
Okay. All right then.
Oh, we're not.
Radio City is
complaining at
amazing,
all.
but we did Madison Square Gardens. That was incredible.
Why was it good? What was good about it? Why does it stick with you?
It was just because I don't know, you feel there's an energy in Madison Square Gardens that's totally different to anything else. It's just the location, it's the vibration of the building. It's built in wood, so I don't know. You feel that when people start stamping their feet, you actually feel that back on the stage.
Yeah.
And just because it was such a, I don't know, I've been with that show since the inception. We walked into a studio, you know, 2 years and maybe, yeah, probably nearly 2 years before that, just at the very, very inception of that show. And then for nearly a year, we were in Shepperton Studios in London rehearsing that show, and that show was put together. So to go out on the stage that night and just to perform it was just insane.
Amazing. Tiernagh.
I think I have two. My first one would be opening night of the 25th anniversary, which was my first proper show as a troupe member. And I remember Michael being in the audience and him being there like through the rehearsals and stuff, which was an absolutely surreal experience. And I remember at the time being like, oh my God, this is a pinch me moment. Like, I can't believe I'm even in the same room as him, never mind getting to be able to work with him. So that was absolutely incredible. And the most recent one was actually last week in Derry. I had a show where like I had loads of family and friends in the audience, and I know I've done bigger arenas and stuff than that there before, but it just was so special having everyone in the audience and all the big cheers, and I knew it was my friends and family, so it was a really special one, and just being able to perform for them was really nice.
That is so fantastic. You know, I have to tell you, my mom and sister actually went to see that.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
They loved it. They
And
absolutely
it really does. It hits different when your family are in the audience.
Oh,
Totally
completely different. Like, I remember people asking me about, like, as you said before, about people being like, oh, you're here, there, and everywhere, and they see pictures on Instagram and all that there, and they're like, you get to travel the world, and they're obviously completely amazing, and I'm so grateful to be able to do that, and those shows are absolutely incredible, and I still get that same feeling every time with them. But I think last week it was kind of like just so heartwarming, and I was like, this is why I do it, for like my family and my parents who like brought me up, took me to classes all them years, and just being able to show them what I was able to do and stuff. It was just incredible.
Amazing. Tara.
Yeah, I would agree with Tiernagh. I think my very last show as the lead dancer with the North American tour in Wolf Trap, Virginia, I think that was the most memorable one for me, because both my mom and dad and my now husband were in the audience, and it was just lovely because my dad wasn't really able to travel physically, so it was nice that he was there for the last show, and it was just nice, like Tiernagh said, it was just lovely because they brought me up, they paid for every dance class, every costume, every fete, every competition away, so it was lovely for them to see, like, this is what came of it all. It was a really nice full circle moment for me.
That's amazing. Okay, now I'm going to flip it. Worst moment you go, oh geez, it plays in your mind, you think, oh, for God's sake, I wish that never happened, or situation where you were like, I cannot believe we're here at the moment. Is there anything that you think?
Come on, Glenn.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Hang on a second. There's many. I mean, listen, I have had, a long career as a professional Irish dancer from Tara was there from the very beginning. There's my worst moment was realizing that I can't do it anymore.
Oh.
Now we want the embarrassing stuff on stage.
Come on, Glenn.
Oh my God.
The Ravenhill 5, Glenn, the Ravenhill 5.
Oh my God.
Did nobody miss their cue? Did nobody miss their anything like that?
So,
Come on,
okay,
did your
I'll
pants
tell you a
get
really disgusting story, but it's kind of dirty. But it's not, it was accidental, right?
Nobody's going to be offended.
No, we can edit it out. No.
Yeah, well, you see, no, I'm not gonna, I'll tell you a different story. So we actually were, there was in a situation in Belfast actually, where Tara and I and our friend we mentioned earlier on, Julie Regan, and two other of our friends, Sinead Lightly and Andy Riley, we all kind of shared an apartment in Belfast, which was a brand new apartment, and it was on the top floor of a small kind of like a three-story house. Ended up getting evicted for noise complaints and whatnot. But it happened during the show, the run of the King's Hall in Belfast, where it was a big deal at the time because it was the first time Riverdance ever came to Belfast, and we were just coming from London and whatnot back in the beginning. So we all got fired out of the house, and it was on the UTV live. They were outside the house with the TV cameras because there was a whole thing, and it was on the Belfast Telegraph, all the newspapers and everything. So it was like a mortifying situation because everybody in the show at the time they're like, "Oh, we're delighted to be here," and Riverdance is great, but then you're phoning home and the mammies are going, "Did you get evicted from your house?" And everybody was like, "Oh no, mammy, it wasn't me. It wasn't me, mammy." Right then, of course, me and Tara had to phone home, and my mum, well, Glenn, was it you? Well, mammy, we did tell you this crack. So we.
I remember my nana was like, was Tara involved in that? And my mother was like, no. I was like, Jesus. Then at my wedding, this one here made a speech saying it was us. We were the culprits. And my nana found out at my wedding that I was the one.
I didn't know she never knew the crack.
No.
And we were all there. And it was, I mean, listen, it was a big deal because we were in public. We ended up bringing a bad name to the show, apparently, because of all our terrible party and all the noise that we did, Tara. And they blame me because Glenn Simpson, you're the ringleader. Excuse me. Sure, I'm not.
I find that hard to believe, then.
On the front.
Yeah, so we were brought into a big rehearsal or a room at the King's Hall and explained to why people are all now looking at us because we're looking at us differently because we're a successful show, and you have to behave yourself, kind of thing. And they're looking at me, I'm like, well, great, here I am, they're getting a bad name. Anyway, that was the start of it.
What was funny, Michael, was in all of our innocence when there was a whole site, like the path outside the apartment that we were living in, there was cameras everywhere, and in our absolute
paparazzi were outside your door, like.
Actually, there was 5 different camera crews, Michael.
They were lined up, and I go to Glenn, I'm like, maybe they're filming us.
Not much happening in Belfast that day, then, or in Northern Ireland.
Nothing. A slow news day.
Nothing. You are the news.
Swear to God, there was nothing else happening. But we, in our innocence, thought they were actually filming something in Belfast, and we didn't have any idea they were there for us.
And they were there with the cameras outside the location and whatnot. Now here we are on the Ravenhill Road,
with the headstone
outside the door.
And you're watching the news.
No, because we had to call call the production office and then get in trouble again, and the next thing they sent the car over first. But even when we were trying to get into the car, it was a farce because they're tripping over bags and truck trying to fall into the car. But in our face.
But Riverdance did sell out for the last 2 weeks that were supposed to be cancelled because of it. So
no such thing.
Bad press is good press. Any press is good press, right?
So what's your most embarrassing moment on stage, Tara?
What's mine?
You were in the lead. What was the most embarrassing?
God.
Not having feeling uncomfortable thinking, oh my God, they're coming to me next.
No, I remember going back on for Countess Kathleen, and one of my hard shoes was tied. So, like, you had a dresser that tied one of your shoes, and you tied the other one. And the dresser tied my one shoe really, really well. I was the langer that didn't tie my shoe very, very well. It was kind of hanging off when I was going on the stage. I'm trying to jam my foot into it. So like I had to kind of dance down and kind of be careful going up on pivots. Yeah, it was brutal because you couldn't really dance and you thought your shoe was going to fall off. Yeah, I wish I could just redo that whole moment. It stays with you.
Tiernagh?
You got one now.
Oh, either one.
No, sorry.
I suppose it's not embarrassing, but it's kind of like to hark back to what Glenn was saying. The moment that kind of it finished it for me was I was going on for the opening number, Cry the Celts, and I just heard a huge pop or bang in my ear, and it was my hamstring just.
Oh,
Completely.
Jesus. Yeah.
I was just dancing around, and because you're on adrenaline, and you don't know, you don't feel. So I was dancing away. I don't know how I was dancing, but it's still going. And then it came off, and I was like, something doesn't feel right. But again, you're pumped up on adrenaline, so you don't really, you don't think about it too much. Went on for Warlords, Lord. So I finished the first half, and I came back, and I was changing in the quick change, and the dresser was taking my clothes off and stuff, and the whole back of my leg was black because I was obviously bleeding. And it wasn't until then that it actually, hit with me. I'm like, like I've actually done something serious here. So it starts then the second half of the show, and Jimmy Keegan had to go on. So I'm sure the audience is like, they start about one Lord, and they with a different Lord. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a strange show for sure, but that was the beginning of the end then for me. I knew kind of like that was my days finished then in professional dancing. But it was it's one of those moments that'll always stick with you. You can't kind of shake it.
Well, that's something that's going to be hard. You're never going to forget that now, Niall, to be honest. And was it a rupture? Was it a
It was actually a clean break.
Yeah.
Lord. Jesus.
And you had surgery, and you're good, and that and everything good now.
No, it wasn't surgery. I had to rest, and it knit back together, but there was so much scar tissue that knitted around it. When I went back to dance, it just couldn't. It wasn't pliable enough.
Yeah.
I can still dance. And I mean, if I had to dance once a week, it would be fine. But I couldn't do it night after night after night because and that's what dancers have to realize as well. When you go on the road, you're doing 9 shows maybe a week. You could be doing two tournaments. It's like you could be doing 2 at the weekend each day. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of toll on the body. So you kind of have to keep that in mind.
Absolutely, that's really important. And I mean that it's hard to prevent an injury like that. It's quite difficult. You never know when that's going to happen.
No, for sure. Do all the right things and do everything you want to look after your body, but sometimes things do happen. This is human.
Sometimes things happen. And we just have to deal with it. And there we are. But yeah,
the
toll of it.
What about you? Is anything? Tiernagh's probably horrified now, thinking I've only been in the show for 2 years.
I've gone wrong, and I can't say. What's been the biggest challenge? If you don't have an embarrassing one, what has been the biggest challenge of being on the road today in Lord of the Dance?
I don't have as many stories as the other guys. Thankfully, I've been quite lucky in that sense. But I think maybe one of the challenges is like just having to grow up, like being, as Niall said, like being on top form, like 24/7, like you can't just be tired. Like you have to just be on the top of your game 24/7, and you just need to learn you need to switch that on whenever it needs to be. And obviously there is times on tour where you might be a bit tired, you might have a cold, you might be like suffering a bit, and we do have a great team with us on tour. Like we have a great physio who's really, really good, and if there is something happening, like they will like take you out and look after you. But just for like general things, like you need to just be able to switch on your A game and go for whatever you need to do. Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. You're just becoming a professional, and you're describing the steps of doing it, and it's beautiful.
Okay, so speaking of switching on the A game, if you can remember back, I know Tiernah's not long from competition, but if you can remember back to when you competed at that high level, right? Like world champion level, do you find being that high level of a performer, of competitor, that switching on the A game might have helped you? Or do you find you were better at it after the fact and you didn't have such a good switch on to the A game while you were competing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I am better at it now, and the show has helped me in that way. It's just learning that it's just what you have to do whenever you're in the shows. Like that's your job. You're there to put on a performance, tell a story with your dancing, and it's obviously absolutely amazing. So whenever I was competing, you do in a sense have to do the same thing. Like I wish I could go back and tell myself that, like, even if you are a bit shy, which I was kind of growing up, you just need to pretend to be someone else. And I wish I could tell myself that, like, just be a character on stage, just pretend to be confident and it'll come across on stage. As I know that now, whenever I'm on stage, people probably think I'm really confident and stuff, which I'm not at all off stage, really. I'm getting better at it, but it's still not the best. But I wish I could go back and tell myself to just pretend to be someone else, and just switch that on whenever you get on stage to compete.
So if you could each just give one piece of advice to somebody going into the show on the first day, what would it be? Or what would you go back and tell yourself if you were going into the show? What would be the advice you would give yourself today?
Just give it your absolute all. Like, you've nothing to lose whenever you're brand new into a show, and the more you give, the more that it'll come across in you. And yeah, just give it your absolute all and show off what you can do.
Very good. What about you, Tara? What would you go back and advise yourself?
I would say if I could go back to myself, it would be to further my education online while I'm on tour. Just to really get into that.
Yeah.
Niall?
I think if I could just interject there, we all came of age before the online wasn't even an option. So do you think the kids now in the show are at an advantage than we were?
Yeah.
Because like you left the show to go to uni.
Yeah. Like big time. I think I think in general there's a big advantage for kids today, just whether you're on tour or not. It's just there's so many platforms, so many just opportunities for kids today that, I mean, don't get me wrong, yeah, the internet was there when we were all touring early, but it's not as prevalent as what it is today. Like there's so many opportunities and different outlets and places to source like endeavors that kids want to do today, even while touring. If there's nothing off the table for kids today, I think,
Yeah, I think I'm really lucky in that sense as well, and COVID helped that a lot. I think with unis and stuff, because I started my degree in the first year of COVID, so I did a year and a half total before I joined the show, and then I took a year leave of absence while I started touring. It was a really busy year that first year that I joined with the 25th anniversary, and then after I got settled into the show and stuff, I had been in contact with them and I was able to do half a year while I was on tour, which was obviously really difficult and it took a lot of discipline and stuff. But I'm so glad I did it, because I remember whenever I did come on tour and I told people I took a leave of absence, so many people were like, everyone does this, you'll never go back, you'll never finish your degree and stuff. And I think that like determination in my head, I was like, no, I'm gonna finish this. Like,
Good for you.
I'm gonna make this happen. And then I was able to do bits and pieces online. Like, I did a couple of presentations on Zoom in Taiwan as well, which was nuts. And none of my classmates and whatnot believed me. They were like, "You're joking. You're hardly doing that over there. Like, you're insane." But I was determined to do it, and I think dancing teaches us that as well, to be resilient and determined. And when you want something, like, you just need to discipline yourself and get it done. And then I took a bit of time off touring last year to finish my final year, and then I graduated. So
Well
I'm
done.
really lucky that I was able to do that. Oh, thank you.
That's amazing.
Absolutely, it's amazing.
Amazing.
But I think that comes with the age of things now, and being able to use the internet to your advantage and stuff, which obviously wasn't there forever. But it's definitely
Are you trying to say we're really old, or?
no.
Well, I think
Tiernagh,
I think that you don't sell yourself short there, because I think that yes, that is available to all of us now. But there's, again, like you said, your friends and your peers there in the show weren't as willing and able to do the same thing. So I think you've done fantastic. And what I would say to anybody going into the show is be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Do you
Just
think
don't be so hard on yourself.
Do you think this pressure that you were put under at 15, 16, 17, 18, this quickly learning to grow up, learning to manage, has been an asset in your life as older adults? Do you think you are a little fiercer, a little more disciplined, whatever? I don't know. Like what transferable skill have you taken from that learning experience other than the dancing bit?
Niall, do you want to go ahead there?
Sure, yeah. I think it's kind of a case of sink or swim, when you go into the show at that age. For me, definitely it made me firstly independent. And it's still to this day, everything I do, I rely on myself mostly for everything. And that's only a good thing in life. Sometimes it can make you maybe a little bit, I don't know, caged or distant to people. But if you can rely on yourself and you know that you can do anything on your own, well, then that's a huge benefit for anybody in life. And definitely in the show, when you have to fend for yourself, although you be with, an ensemble of maybe 40 people at any one time, you do feel very isolated still. Like you could be with loads of people in a room, but then still feel completely isolated. And that's a huge, it's a huge effect on you mentally. And you learn as you go through it, and it's a process, and you become tougher, and it's good.
Yeah, I can relate to 100%. It made me fiercely independent, and I can do anything myself. I don't need nothing. I don't need no help from nobody. I'll do everything. I will design it. I will make it. I will create it. I will choreograph it. I will finance it. I will make it. I will film it. I will edit it. I will edit it. I will everything. Yeah, it makes you very determined, and because you've been successful at a young age, why should that stop now?
Mm-hmm.
How hard is it on the road when you fall in love? Because people do fall in love in the shows, obviously, all the time. We have weddings all the time when they fall in love, and then it falls apart on the road in full view of the rest of the community.
It's a scandal.
The community, is everybody delighted? Oh God, we've got drama. What's that like? And how does one survive it and get past it?
No, I never experienced that personally. I'll hand it over to Tara.
They're all laughing, so it's happened to everybody. But
there was definitely a lot of relationships in Riverdance. I mean, there was an article that came out that there was something like 21 or 25 babies that were born from the Riverdance cast. Was there something like that, Glenn? There was a statistic.
Yeah, and
then there's another statistic that there's a huge number of us have twins. A lot of us have twins. So I don't know if they're putting something in the Gatorade or what, like.
Because they did give us Gatorade.
Yeah, there's quite a few of us have twins. And yeah, there was a lot of relationships that happened in Riverdance. A lot of relationships fizzled. A lot of dancers got married. Quite a lot of my friends are married and have kids and are happily still together. Yeah, so I think it either makes you or breaks you. But for the most part, everyone's still cordial and friends.
That's a great topic for us to have for Cora, is people that met and fell in love and got married on the road and are still together. And we know a few of them.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, it's very cool.
They're cool people.
Yeah.
Do you find there was a difference, like being on the road? And I know now for those of us that are adjudicators and traveling, do you find maybe you're feeling maybe the same sort of sensation? I know when I'm away for 3 or 4 or 5 days adjudicating, when I come home and you do that wake up and you're like, I don't even know what bed I'm in. Do we all have that feeling of like,
oh, Kim, there was sometimes, and I know all 4 of you can relate. There's sometimes you'd wake up in a hotel room and you're literally like, Jesus, what city am I in? Are we right?
Yeah, all the time.
Like you literally, because you see the hotel room, the bus, backstage theater hotel bus, backstage theater hotel bus. So you kind of, after a while, you're like, you have to almost check. You have to check your phone or the television to see what city you're in. Like
you have to see where you're sitting, and now you always get confused with the number of the key card, and then like, oh Jesus, I'm in the wrong place, and now I have to write it onto the envelope because I would get confused where I'm at and what city I'm at. And yes, it was a whirlwind, madness.
Who's the best in the world?
Sorry.
I just watched the thing with Robbie Williams where he was asked who was the best audience in the world, and he said, "Oh, the Irish by far, because they have a wildness."
Yeah.
That nobody else has. And who did you find were the best audiences in the world? Because this is obviously going across the globe.
I mean,
apart from family.
I mean, the various cities and states, I would say, like Texas had great audiences, New York were great, California is kind of spoiled for shows. New York is kind of spoiled. Yeah, like the smaller cities in America, probably some of the best audiences, I would say. Yeah.
I agree completely. Actually, from being on tour extensively, the smaller cities in the States are the most responsive.
Yeah.
And there's a stark contrast to other countries. I'd say that there's other countries will be definitely more reserved.
Yeah, Europe is more reserved.
Europe is definitely more reserved. The English audiences in and around London, again, because everything good and people in London are used to the best in the world.
It's spoiled for you.
So there would be, quite a reserved audience. I find out for Riverdance and Lord of the Dance, they weren't, because it was something completely new. But typically, put me on what I'd say the American audiences.
Tell me what it's like the first day you walk out to do that lead, because you've all done leads. You've all been that star, right? What's it like, if you can remember that first day? You've been told you've practiced whatever, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is your practice. You're stood backstage in the wings. What is that feeling when you know, here's my intro and here I come? What goes in your head?
I don't know. I think the best thing was not to think about it, because you felt like somebody was behind just like this, pushing you on the stage, because you can't turn back.
Yeah.
Just go.
When the music starts, I mean, don't think about it, because otherwise you wouldn't even go on stage.
Exactly. You have a responsibility.
Yeah, you just have to let your body take over.
Yeah.
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 For me, my experience was I was stood there and I'm like, oh, but I don't want to do this. And then like, I don't want to be Michael Flannery. And then I went and just, here I went. And then it was a
Does that happen every night? Does that happen every time?
No.
Judi Dench talks about how, I don't know if you've seen Tea with the Dames, where the 4 British acting dames sit around and they have tea, and they talk about their nerves, which kind of shocked me, actually, that they all got so. And they would talk about, we'd be walking to the theatre and we'd decide, there's a bus coming, shall I jump under the bus and walk on the stage? But maybe it's different when you have to say lines or you're doing Shakespeare than what I don't know. Yeah. Is it more or less, or the first time is the worst?
I don't know. I think it's just, I didn't enjoy doing lead until about 10 shows into it.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even tell you how I felt, because I was so preoccupied with like the newness of it all. Like, and
getting it right.
No matter how many times you rehearse it, it's not the same as when the audience is done and they're looking at you,
Yeah.
And you have to also make your peace that you're not going to be Michael Flatley. Like, there's only one Michael Flatley. He is the best at what he does. He's the creator of all this, so you kind of have to take it that what are you going to bring to the lead? It's kind of like when there's a new Bond, know, there's the vein is going through the same, but then some people are going to love the new one, some people are going to hate the new one, but you have to make your peace with that as well. So what are you bringing to the lead? And you just go with that, and eventually then you do get your own stride, and you get your own rhythm, and you get a bit of your own swag, and you can see the differences then with the different leads, which I think is pretty cool. Because we're not all robots. We all have our own personality, even though we're portraying the same role.
Yeah, and we can compare the leads over the years of Riverdance and Lord of the Dance, and that difference is what makes it cool.
Yeah,
that's who you're dancing with, I'm sure. Does that make a difference who's opposite you as the lead?
Yeah,
like who the female lead is or the male lead? Does that make a difference?
Yeah, I could never have done the lead with Tara, because the two of us would just pissed ourselves on stage laughing. We could never have did it.
We were deliberately never put together for obvious.
One time in American Wake in Riverdance, we had a dance like a team, like one of those, like a forehand together, and the two of us slipped and fell on top of each other on the stage, crawling off the stage laughing. We would like, you two are in trouble, but we know, we didn't do that.
Well, that even goes to a question: how much does chemistry play a part in how the line looks? Like if there's been a fight that week and somebody stole somebody's fork, like Niall was saying, or sat in the chair.
That's a good point, Kim. That's
how much does chemistry play a part in the performance? Or if you like your male opposite lead or your female opposite lead, and you have to spin them around, you're thinking, "I'm going to murder you after this." Like what?
Sometimes
right?
It does affect the performance 100%, and sometimes it can make it better.
Because you're so angry.
Yes, I might dance my ass off because of you. You're
Oh, three, yeah.
It fires everyone up. Like the more pissed you are at each other, it's a better show.
Yes, exactly. Because the whole kumbaya beforehand, oh, we're doing great, as opposed to and you get the
Then
adrenaline going a little bit more.
Starting it all up tomorrow after they want.
That's it,
Has there been riffs where you're all literally standing side by side going treble, 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 going, Jesus, I freaking hate you now?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And does that change your mindset? Does that change the performance? Does it change the chemistry?
Not really for me. I mean, not really, because you're still there, trying to do your it's still fun at the end of the day, even if you're in a bad mood. You know what I mean? And you're still professional, you're still smiling through it. There's a couple of times I accidentally kick people and that type of thing. People that get mad at me. I'm like, listen, you want me to do the thing up high and then you're stood too close to me. The next thing I feel your knuckle getting crushed. It's not my fault. You know what I mean? Sorry, Kira. But yes, there's times when you accidentally bump into people and people get mad at you. I'm like, listen, we're all in the same boat here. And it usually works itself out. Usually.
Yeah, I mean, this is, in any job, you're not going to love every single person that you work with, but you're there to do the job, and you have to be mature enough and responsible enough to understand that you have to get on with these people to a degree that you can perform.
Yeah.
You might never talk to them again when you leave the show, but that's life. You're not going to love everyone in life. So
yeah.
So we're coming very much to the time, and I'm so grateful you all came. But what next? I mean, you're the future, obviously, in many ways of Irish dance, and maybe of the shows. And do any of you have aspirations of running your own show, or where do you see it going from here, or who's going to build on the shoulders of what's gone with this generation?
Well, for me, I've a lot of experience in performance and many different shows and companies, and been involved in the inception of a few of them. Some have been very successful, some have not. It would be my life dream to be involved in a show again in a management role. I think that I would be able to bring a lot to the table, and the future is bright. And in fact, because there's so much talent, like yourself, Niall and Tiernagh and Tara, we know how well we work together, and it's just being given a proper vehicle for us to be given a chance to show what maybe with our little bit of experience, what we can do. Maybe one day.
What do you think, Tara? Has it reached its potential, Irish dancing? Is there another generation of shows out there?
That's such a hard question, because I feel like Riverdance has gone on over 30 years. Lord of the Dance is close to it as well, and it's not far behind it. I mean, what else can you go? Where else can you go with Irish dancing? I feel like Flatley's taken it to its absolute, probably to the highest pinnacle it can go. I don't know. Maybe there's, I don't know if there's something else you can incorporate into it to revitalize it and rebirth it again. I don't know. I think it's an open space, maybe. I don't know.
I would think that
I know when I went to judge maybe the All Ireland last year, and then Niall Holly's dancers came out, and I thought, oh my God, I would never even have thought of it going in that direction. Some of the material you were doing, and it was amazing and brilliant to watch.
Yeah, insane.
And I think while there's people like Niall and yourselves out there, I think it's going to evolve, and it's going to still be of interest to people, I hope.
I hope so too, Michael. And coming toward the 25th anniversary of Dancing on Dangerous Ground, to mention pushing Irish dancing to its limit.
Plug as much as you want, any show, honestly, because that's what we're here.
Yeah, so I really do think that that paved the way for the future. Maybe it was preemptive, maybe it was a little bit ahead of its time. I get told that constantly. The work we did in that show and the attempt to change the dance language of the actual traditional form, and the storytelling aspect of it that has been kind of carried on by other shows since, but never in the same vein as what Colin Dunn and Jean Butler did. And for me, the future would very much include performances and shows and films and short films and media like things done in the vein of Dancing on Dangerous Ground, with integrity and a creative original artists and artistry, which I think Irish dance is an art form. Again, to harken back to the previous topic.
I do think, sorry, just to belly up on you, Glenn. I think Irish dancing being filmed or just televised, I think that would be a fantastic step for Irish dancing. I mean, you look at some of that, I know we're all smiling, right? But you look at like the Olympics and there's like freaking breakdancing, there's curling, there's all that stuff in it. Like our art form, like I don't know, maybe it's just my opinion, but like the discipline and structure that's involved in Irish dancing is absolutely like unbelievable.
Yeah.
The work that goes into it, the training that goes into it. I feel like a little bit like if there was, you know, if it was televised, there'd be a little bit more of an understanding and recognition for Irish dancing. I do. I think it deserves a platform, and it
I agree.
deserves.
Do you think if we brought that same idea, so this kind of piggybacks on another question I was going to ask. Do you think the show, and you're all choreographers as well, and Tiernagh, you're in the choreography space right now. Do you think, obviously, the show has changed the way we choreograph competitive dancing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because this group, this cabal of people came out of the show with these new ideas, these new rhythms, these new sounds, this new headspace.
Yeah.
I think now we are, obviously there's a metamorphosis, but do you think we can continue this metamorphosis to go on to what Tara was saying about moving our sport or our art form forward?
I do.
Or do you think we're a bit stuck now? Do you think we're kind of in that rut of 30 years? You're saying like we moved and now we're a bit stuck again? Do we need to shift again?
I think we're kind of waiting for a little bit of a renaissance again, because we've had, you know, the Riverdance, Lord of Dance bomb went off. I think we need a new platform. I don't think we need a new Lord of the Dance or Riverdance, because it's very hard to, you know, better that's.
And plus the day of theatre showed maybe
because, you know,
not.
nothing's ever perfect, but it's as good as it gets in that space on that stage. So I think, you know, yeah, it's the platform hasn't arrived yet that we need to
New catalyst.
exploit, you know what I mean? That, yeah, so but it will come. You know, everything comes to us when it's ready. So we just kind of have to, and the opportunity will arise. And I think what Tara was saying was really, really good, because I'd be down the same vein as this. Even the likes of what we see with Feis TV at the moment. I love that because it gives, you know, a recording of a time and something there, a moment in time, like that this kid has absolutely worked so hard for.
Yeah.
And that can be appreciated on a different level. It doesn't just snap and stop at the 5 tables, you know, in front of the stage at the judges. It goes beyond that. And that's what we need for Irish dancing. We needed to get into more, because I know Riverdance and Lord of the Dance has brought it everywhere across the world and into people's, you know, vocabulary, but it's still not ballet, or it's still not, you know, still not in that vein yet. So there's more for Irish dancing to be injected into that area for sure. And I think, yeah, I mean, if people are sat down watching, you know, people watch chess, darts, it's what people will watch anything that people are excellent at doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if you're not into something, if you're not even into sports in any shape or form, you can sit and watch the best person in the world in the Olympics at that sport and be like, oh my God, you just make it look amazing. And people will definitely do that for Irish dancing. So I think that's an avenue that has to be explored. But that's also who's going to give and open up the reins to allow, especially maybe as we're talking with CLRG at the moment, they're very henched that they don't want to, you know, outwardly allow this happen, because how do you keep control then? You know, so kind of would it have to take it then to a space that, you know, do we go bigger than the World Championships and we go into like a semi-pro kind of level where the best of the best of the best go onto like a sporting television platform to compete? Or I don't know, like it's
championship in football.
Yeah, you know,
Premier Championship. Yeah. Do we
go a step higher than what we have, what we consider at the moment the World Championships is the pinnacle of the best of Irish dancing at the moment? But can we go higher than that? You know, can that be broadcast to the world?
I agree.
I think that's a great idea.
I think it's necessary, because I don't know about where you're all living, but I know here in Canada we're struggling with bringing in beginners, youngsters into the sport, because it's just hard. It's just hard to get anybody in sport right now. And I do believe that if we had some sort of global whatever advertising, a la television or broadcasting or whatever, it would become a commonplace thing, and it would be as egalitarian as football or hockey or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is so
I think that would be
broad-based, right? And women and men and boys and girls, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter any culture. But I think there's something to be picked apart there, and I think that would behoove, it would benefit us all, I think, across.
Absolutely. And I think Niall's idea was awesome, actually. And I think that with our more senior competitions and over 23 categories, etc., I think that there was a maybe, and there's also people that are looking to depart from all organizations. So if there was a departure when you reach a certain age, you're 25 and you want to continue to dance, then this is the scene. It's the universal Irish dancing competition on YouTube. I don't know, whatever it is, I think it's a great idea. And anything that can encourage people to do Irish dancing for longer. And the more we get to see of it, the better it is.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
I very much agree. Can I just ask you one word, top of your head, whether it's gratitude or ingratitude or whatever? When I tell you Irish dancing, what do you think straight away?
What one word comes to your mind when you say Irish dancing?
When I say Irish dancing, what is it comes to your mind?
River dance. Lord of the Dance.
There you go.
Really?
Tiernagh?
To me, it's probably global village. That's what,
Global Village, Michael, yeah.
that's and a community. It is a community. Whether we don't fight or we don't, whatever. We look inwards or outwards. It is a community.
I would say community too, Michael. Actually, that would be my word. Community.
I know there's not a city we could break down in the world and pick up a phone and find somebody to come and get us, apart from maybe Palm Springs.
Absolutely.
Irish here. But
come get you in Palm Springs.
Come get you, Michael.
You come and get me, Sarah.
What about you, Tiernagh? If I just say Irish dance, what does your heart say?
I think just being grateful for it. It's taught me so many life lessons that I don't think anything else could have ever taught me. So I think I'm just really grateful for all the opportunities it's brought me.
It's amazing. Now?
I think all consuming.
Mhm.
And that's pretty much, from the spectrum of bad to good and everything in between. It takes over everything. And that can be good and that can be bad. So
I was going to say
it's how you how you deal with that.
Yeah.
With the police. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my other word I was going to use was life, but I thought it would be too dramatic.
Well, I
Up
picked
to you
passion.
then.
It's the same. Like I don't think there's anything that gets us like this art form gets us and allows us to be who we are.